Hi class. I just wanted to walk you through Chapter 6 really briefly, give you some pointers. I actually love teaching this chapter this time of year because it's Halloween and you can buy skeletons anywhere. The dollar store, Target, Walmart, Walgreens, wherever you go, you're going to see skeletons, and that's really going to help you understand and practice your bone knowledge. Now, of course, they're mostly inaccurate, but you can always fix them, label things that aren't there, and you know, kind of fill in the gap, so to speak, with your own knowledge. So I still think that it's a pretty cool thing to say go to the dollar store and get one of those 3D models. They have actual like 18 inches or 24 inches models of skeletons, and they have all the joints, they have all the carpals and tarsals, and so that you can actually start to practice naming them. Now, of course, in the lecture side, the online portion of the course, I'm not going to cover Chapter 7. It's kind of a given that you will cover that in lab. That's a lot of what you will spend your time on this semester in lab. But in terms of what I'm going to be testing you on in lecture, it's mostly the physiology side, the Chapter 6 side of the skeletal system. That's not to say that I won't throw a question or two on your exam about bones, but I'm not going to say, you know, which of the following processes is not part of the humerus, and, you know, I'll list the, you know, the medial epicondyle and the lesser tubercle. You know, I wouldn't list those things on your exam. Those would be more for the lab portion, but you are expected to know, for instance, that the humerus is a long bone, you know, the parts of the long bone, etc. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're working through this chapter. I want to walk through some of the pages with you. The first couple pages are just an overview of the different types of cells that are involved, and on the kind of consecutive pages after that, specifically 168 and 169, there's some really good diagrams of the functional unit of a bone, and that is the osteon. Sometimes they're called Haversian systems or Haversian canals. It's the same thing. It's just as the years have gone by, they've changed what they're calling them. But the osteon is that kind of tree trunk-like structure, and it's really important to understand how that's assembled, how it changes, and how it develops. So I strongly suggest doing some practice on the website, the textbook website, the Connect Plus, and maybe even trying to redraw, say, the diagram that's on page 168 and 169, the diagrams that show, you know, the central canals and the circumferential lamellae, etc., etc. Kind of understand how all of those terms fit together. I think that's important. The next page goes through all of the anatomy of a long bone and the different parts of the long bone. It's important to understand that not all bones are long bones, and, you know, what the different types of bones are. That kind of goes with the territory. And then you get into the overall processes of how bones form. And on 175, there's a great opportunity for you to make a flowchart. You can do a flowchart on your sheet of paper, kind of like I showed you last week, or you can use note cards. As I was explaining before, you basically take one note card, and each note card's a step. You can mix them up and try to put them in order. This page would be a great page to photocopy, and then on one side of the note card you could have the description in words, and then on the other side of the note card you could copy and paste the picture from the textbook, and that way you can put kind of images with the words to try to help them go together. Then you get into, again, the bone growth and the different influences of bone growth, the hormones, the vitamins, the minerals, the nutritional aspect, and then finally into bone repair, which again gives you another chance to do some sequencing. The calcium homeostasis that's on page 183 is probably the most complex physiology in this chapter, understanding how the two major hormones, calcitonin and PTH, parathyroid hormone, work to balance blood calcium levels. So making your own flowcharts, copying the diagram that's on page 183, I think that's a kind of an overcomplicated diagram there. There's many ways that you could simplify that and kind of recreating it in your own. You could also do a flowchart of that because it is kind of sequential. That would be a good way to grasp those concepts. And ending the chapter with some osteoporosis and the effects of aging on the skeletal system. At the end of every chapter they do a little bit on aging. I strongly suggest doing the little assess your progress questions as you go if you're not using the reading guides to try to keep you on track and keep you thinking as you're reading. And then, of course, there are the multiple choice comprehension questions at the end of the sections. Please let me know if you have any questions or you want to review anything before you take your quiz, before you take your test. I'm here to help you, and I hope to see you guys succeed. See ya. Bye.